And we are live. Okay. All right. So this evening I will be speaking with the lovely Ade. And let me just pin this. Oh, so we know what we're talking about. Okay. All right. Okay. So I see you, Ade, and I'm going to add you who are joining us this evening. We've had some technical challenges, but we're connected now.
Yeah.
We're connected now. So anyway, welcome, Ade. How are you?
I am wonderful. A little bit feeling a little bit chilly because things are getting cold over here. I got this heater around me, but I need a blanket around me or a jacket around me. But other than that, I think once we get talking, I think I'll warm up. But
You'll
yeah,
warm
it's
up.
been a
Good.
long day, but I feel good. How are you doing?
I am good, thank you. Yeah. Technology always keeps me on my toes. Apart from that, I'm good, and I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely.
so, right. So why are we here, Ade? Why are we here?
Oh, while we're here, we're here to let people know you can't rely on technology all the time. We're here to inspire. We're here to guide. We're here to remind people that we have the power. And not only that, we're here to remind people that they have the power. We have the power. We're also telling you that because we know you have the power, we have um, event for you to partake in that can help you in remembering that you have the power. Because, one of the things that was coming to me, I was going to pull it up earlier, but I got distracted. I don't know. Have you heard, do you know Marianne Williamson?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, she wrote a book called A Return to Love.
Mm-hmm.
And this was coming to me, and I'll pull it up. And I think I know the part that I want to read out loud, really, I know. In her book, A Return to Love, there is a part that become quite popular, made into a movie. They even credited it to Mandela. But it was Marianne Williamson that wrote it, downloaded it. And she said, our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate.
Mm.
Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is
Mm.
our light, not our darkness, that most frighten us. That statement, it is our light, not our darkness, that most frighten us. And that's something that I've been really meditating on, just kind of listening to. And I see it not just with people, but with myself. This idea of, you know, I do videos. I haven't done it in a long time, but I used to do it daily. But so much has happened in my life, a lot is changing that I don't do it. The episode is called Self Care Made Simple.
Mm-hmm.
And what I talk about is the importance of listening to that capital self, capital S self,
Mm-hmm.
which is powerful, it is successful, it is grateful, and it is creative. I don't know, I'm not necessarily trying to be accurate, but I'm also trying to be accurate. I'm going to generalize and say most of us did not grow up with anybody telling us about that inner self, that
Mm.
capital S self, the
Mm.
power within us. Most of us probably grew up with telling us that we're not worthy, we're sinners,
Mm-hmm.
we're this, and we need to beg this God who created us to then decide if it's going to, or really they say he, if he's going to accept your begging and your apology, and then say, well, let me see if you forgive enough, because you have two choices. You can go that way or that way, or maybe they say that way or that way, heaven or hell. So we grew up with that, and I feel like we whether that those of us who don't subscribe to Christianity or Islam or whatever, but there's something about that thought that's in the consciousness of humanity. and not just about religion. It's in the legal system. It's in the education system.
Mm-hmm.
How we are evaluated, being good or bad. Our parents treat us like that. So we start to believe that we're good or bad. Personally, I think we're good and bad.
Mm-hmm.
And in the name of love, true love, love as a force, divine love, it really doesn't matter if you're good or bad, because if you're connected to that love, to that self, it corrects everything. And so you asked me a question while we're here. That's why we're here. We wouldn't talk about that. We wouldn't talk about how to navigate the craziness, all that's going on in the world, how to stay centered, how to remember who you are, and how to use moments like this to transform and rise in consciousness and elevate. That's why I think we're here. Did I get it right?
Well, we're here because of MNPC, which is the Mindfulness Network for People of Colour. And to let those who are joining us and those who watch the replay, we are taking part, Ade and myself, two of the presenters who are taking part. There are other presenters as well. The retreat starts on the 18th of November through to the 26th of November online for people of colour. And the theme is transforming communities and creating cultural calm. And I wanted to start off by focusing on, and I'm looking down because I've got my notes here. Who are we and why do we do what we do? So I'm Lillian and Ade, for those of you who don't know. I'm a de-stress wellness coach. I've worked in the health wellness industry for over 20 years in various ways. Started off teaching exercise, massage therapy, but due to 2 episodes of burnout, have changed the trajectory of my work. And through those episodes of burnout, brought up a lot of dormant trauma that I had suppressed from childhood due to lots of racial trauma. It's interesting the work that I'm doing now in terms of helping people to shift out of stress and into a place of calm, that as adults, the things that we're untangling, that come to the forefront in various ways. And when I look, because I hang around a lot of young people, and when I look at them, and when I look at the younger children, and I just think, we've got to, as adults, change how we nurture the next generations as they grow up, as they come through. So this is part of transforming communities, because otherwise we're looking at the next generations as adults who have to work through what we worked through. So I work alongside also people who do work with parents and parenting, and just the change of parenting that happens now in this modern society is quite interesting compared to the parenting that I experienced in growing up. So so we're going to talk about transforming communities and how we create cultural calm around that. But firstly, Ade, and welcome those of you who are joining us. Congratulations on White Nanny, Black Child.
Yeah.
You guys got an award that I saw. So we got some up and coming celebrities. So how does it feel? How does it feel to be in the limelight?
It's really interesting because there was a question. I can't remember exactly how the interviewer asked us, but now that you won this award, what you going to do moving forward or something like that? And I'm like, for me, I mean, the 9 of us that came together, they're part of the retreat that became a documentary. It's not like we wrote a script that we made into a movie and it was very successful. We were telling our story. So how does it feel? I don't know particularly. I mean, for me, the award represents um, a celebration of what we did and an
Mm.
acknowledgement of what we did. And people who've watched it, people who were moved by it saying, I recognize what you guys are doing. So it's kind of like a high five. It's like a bump, a fist bump, and saying, thank you. Thank you for telling your story. Um, yeah, it's an interesting experience, you know.
And do
Um,
you think that that will, I mean, because again, based on the theme of the MMPC retreat, you know, I think, I mean, having watched it, it will help to transform our community. Um, you know, for okay, the Black community especially, as well as because of course this is happening, has happened in various cultures of color,
mhm,
and the fact that it's come up onto a screen and you're telling your story on a screen, whereas before we would just be telling stories, because I remember when my uncles and aunts used to come round, and our parents, all of them used to share different stories of what they were going through, and from their childhoods to where they were back home to coming here, and these
mhm,
are things that are spoken about in the home, but the fact that what you all went through is now on a screen for public viewing. It's like it's out there,
mhm,
but it's kind of like, for those of us who know, it's like, yeah, of course we know this has been going on, but the fact it's come to the forefront so that we can now, like what you were saying before about having choices, we can now, there's a choice. Okay, so do we carry on just living the same way, or now that we know about this, how can we transform our communities and make it better?
mhm, mhm.
You know, um,
I'm curious to hear
because
your thoughts about it. What did you think about it after watching it?
well, first of all, when I watched it first on Channel 5,
Mhm.
and I could only watch it up until a certain point because it was close to my bedtime. Well, it was beyond my bedtime,
Mhm.
and it got to a stage where I thought, no, if I'm going to continue to watch this is going to play on my mind when I go to bed. And it was, for me, it was bringing up different memories of my childhood. So I thought it's best that I watch the replay,
Mhm.
and then I'll take it from there. I'll watch it in bits.
Mhm.
Um, because when you're a sensitive person as well, and you take on what's displayed to you, it can be quite detrimental. So um but when I watched the rest, I realized, I was like, oh, it's not as bad as I thought it was. um and that could be because of where I am in terms of my knowledge and the type of work that I do with individuals. So but I thought it was tastefully done. um it, it was shared in an authentic and vulnerable way at the same time, and 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 I feel that Abby, I mean, I know Abby, and she just held the space so beautifully, you know um and you all just shared so beautifully as well. It was like, oh my goodness, is there a part two to this?
Oh yeah,
but
absolutely.
but yeah, I just thought it was tastefully and well represented. Let me put it that
Mhm.
way. It was well represented, and I
Mhm.
think it was enough. It was shared enough to say, you guys didn't have to really go into deep, 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 deep details. It was like what you shared was like, yeah, we get that. Yeah, we've experienced it. Yeah, definitely. It was like a nod, like, definitely, yeah, great that this is being aired, you know, rather than sort of being kept within our communities behind
Mhm.
closed doors, you know.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
it's being aired for everyone to see, of
Absolutely.
all cultures to see
Absolutely.
what happened.
Mhm.
And also, it reminded me, because I worked for an organization called National Foster Care Association many
Mhm.
years ago. And one of the topics that we would go out and do training in, for social services as well as for foster carers.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the topics were around the black child being fostered by white families.
Mm-hmm.
And now I was never on those trainings because I was a training organizer, so I'd be helping to organize the trainings for these certain institutions. But the feedback from it, um, was, yeah, back then. So this was in the 90s. In the 90s, I was working for the organization. Um, Back then, it was still, kind of, that was still happening. White families were still fostering black children privately, because they would call it fostering privately.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and and it was a case of being able to step in and protect the child, protect the children from any undue, abuse, racial abuse, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So it was then that I kind of saw, and now that, again, relating it back to the theme of the retreat, transforming communities, this was, I mean, the organisation National Foster Care Association was largely a white organisation in terms of white people in the organisation who were stepping in to help transform what was happening to black children who were being privately fostered by white families, and ensuring that those black children were connected with their cultures, that they knew where they came from, that they would be given the right resources as they were growing up to understand who they were,
Yeah.
as a black person, as well as their culture as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, so that those memories came back to me as well.
Yeah. Thank you for that. You know, um, you said we didn't have to go deep. We actually did go deep because that retreat was a 5-day retreat. I call it
Wow.
a retreat. So we had a 5-day retreat that became a documentary.
Uh-huh.
And I would say to people, what people see, that documentary is like 60 seconds of
Mm.
hours of recording. What make
Wow.
what makes it so powerful, because I remember when we first saw the rough cut, what, what made it so powerful is the fact that it has a spirit. So
Mm.
when I watched other people felt the same thing, watched the rough cut, which wasn't, was just the early stages. The impact was still just as strong. What
Mm.
I noticed is that when people watch it, they feel in the spirit of what we went through. There
Mm.
was a consciousness of healing around it. There was
Mm.
a consciousness of telling a story that was hidden. There was a
Mm.
consciousness of setting people free. And, you know, Andy the Castle, the director, from beginning to end, has continued to hold us. That duty of care was paramount. They,
Mm.
they, from the beginning, questions that they asked. And I tell people, I said, that documentary is, we didn't go in to do a documentary. It's our
Mm.
retreat that became a documentary.
Mm.
And when we talk about transforming our community, as you saw, some of us, the experience was horrible.
Mm.
For some of us, the horrible experience happened between parents, the biological parents, and the foster parent. Maybe got yanked out of there. Someone in the documentary was abused in a very horrible way, right?
Mm.
But what we did, the 9 of us, was we looked at our own life, our individual life, and we decided that we want to tell the story of what happened. We surrendered to something more.
Mm.
And that's what made the transformation happen. If
Mm.
people came and said, I'm not gonna go deep, or I'm not going to say too much about my experience. You remember there was one of the gentlemen, Kunle, who said basically he felt like there are things that he had buried, and now being in that retreat was like an invitation to go get those things that you buried deep down and open it up. And a lot of us have stuff buried. We don't want to open it up for many reasons. Being afraid, not equipped enough, feeling like they don't have the tools, feel like it doesn't matter, feeling like it was in the past, feeling like whatever. But yet life will constantly remind us, go back there and open it up. And if we're not aware, we'll blame our partners, we blame the neighbor, we blame the landlord, we blame the supervisor. Now, they're playing their roles, and I'm not saying they don't have a role that they're playing, but if there is no wounding, if you touch me, I'm not going to feel pain. But if you touch me, ow, yeah, it may have been impactful, but the pain also has to do with something with me. And transformation cannot happen, well, I say that quite strong, and I want to soften it, but I won't. I doubt that transformation no, it's not going to happen without vulnerability. To transform, for something to change form, to the stories, the narrative that we've carried, we have to allow ourselves to be vulnerable, to not run from the fear, even if it's painful, to just keep breathing, to remember I want to be free. And this shift is painful, but I'm going to keep breathing. I got people here holding me. I got other people who understand what I'm going through. And I feel like we're in a time where life is inviting us to transform, to change, to tell a new story. And we're seeing it in different ways. And you talked about what we need to look at how we parent our young people. We're going through and growing through an evolutionary process. And if we resist it, we pass this on to the next generation for them to do the work. And it's going to be all good either way, because God wastes nothing. Nothing is ever wasted. Everything is used. However, we also have the opportunity to do what we are meant to do, what we know to do, because we've sat still long enough to listen to that capital S self, that higher self, that inner guidance, that there's some things I need to clean up. The next generation will have things to clean up, but we can lighten their load. And some of us are doing the work. You know, people talk about the new next generation, the young people. Oh, well, they don't even have the kind of hang-ups that we have. They come in here clear. They know why they're here. They don't do that binary thing. They don't even believe in racism. But what those of us who are ahead of them, are missing, I think we're so disconnected that we think things just kind of happen like that. The reason they have the clarity that they have is the work that we're doing here. The reason
it is. They're also going through things. I mean, if you look at what's happened, you know, it's on another level. It's like, oh my goodness, when I was their age, I wasn't even thinking of protecting myself because, you know, this person has got a knife or that person's got a knife. You know, going to school and being checked, you know, or
exactly.
walking down the street and being stopped by police. You're 13. I mean, what they're dealing with is something is another level, and we have still got to be mindful of them and equip them with the tools still to be able to navigate what they're going through, so that doesn't turn into a buried and suppressed trauma that will come out in their 40s, in their 50s.
Listen, look, I mean, there's so much I could say about that. I'm like, so much is bubbling. Just before we came on, of course, I was setting up, I was on Instagram, and there was a video of a young man at a tube station on the other side of the track, and there was a young lady. The video started with him walking through the tracks from the other side to meet her. So she was video recording it, and he was trying to talk to her. He said, I don't know you. I don't know you. Don't talk to me. The guy was like, just listen to me. Let me talk to you. She said, I don't want to talk to you. And he was like, stop carrying on. I just take your phone. Basically bullying, harassing her. And she said, can you guys help me? She was calling some other people. I don't know if they're male or female, but the I don't know, maybe about 20 seconds video. Nobody came at that time to support her. But this young man basically was saying, I just want to talk to you. Stop acting like that. If you carry on, telling her, if you carry on, I'll take your phone. She said, you can't take my phone. I don't know you. But I was like, the audacity of this young man to think, not only put his life at risk, cross from the other side of the track, walk across the train tracks to jump up. Now, when you talk about them having to take knives, particularly in UK, carry knives in them in America, I mean, most of the shooting, generally speaking, when someone takes gun to schools, is usually young males. But the thing is, I see that as because, this isn't going to be a strong statement, but I'm going to say it. Because we, their parents, are often not willing to do the deep work. We're not able to protect them because we don't feel protected. We are trying to protect ourselves with insurance and alarm system. So it gets multiplied in them. Sometimes we're even giving them advice and trying to tell them what they should be or shouldn't be, and they should do well in school so they can get a good job. But yet, I'm telling my children, do well, you need to do well at school so you can get a good job. But yet, I come home and complain about my job. I come home, I'm talking on the phone, it's like, I don't really like that job, but it pays my bill. And yet, I'm going to tell my son, my daughter, you got a good... What's the inspiration? They're hearing what I'm saying. We have to be stressed. Yes, we need to be aware of what we're saying. We need to be aware of doing our own healing work. It's a lot easier to talk about the BS in the world, but as human beings don't want to do the work. We're afraid of our own power. So we'd rather choose sides. We'd rather be divisive. We'd rather say it's that cultural thing. Oh, it's because she's a woman, because it's a man. Well, they're gay, they're trans, they're religious, they're Christian, they're Muslim, they're Jewish, they're this or that. Oh, they worship Ifa. Oh, my God. Ooh, witches. When the real enemy is inside. But until we're willing to make friends with that enemy, it's hard to create safety for somebody else. So if the young people feel like in the UK have to carry knives to protect themselves, they don't feel safe. Now, this is not a conversation about blaming parents. I'm just talking about, because it's not just parents, the society that we've created. Because, people say, I just blame the parents. I blame the parents. Stop it. Just stop. Just stop. If we're going to blame parents, we need to blame everybody.
Exactly. It's all of us. Like the saying goes, it takes a village to bring up a child.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
the global village at the moment is in unrest, disarray, conflicts happening, and when it all kicked off in the Middle East, and someone was asking me, we were having a conversation, and this person was like, oh, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I feel guilty and blah, blah, blah. I said, listen, the first thing is to look within yourself, because I'm a firm believer that whatever is being displayed globally for us to see is happening within us as well.
Absolutely.
And oftentimes we don't, like what you're saying, Ade, we don't want to look on the inside and admit that, oh, okay, so how am I contributing to this, the global stage, and what conflicts are happening in me? Where am I fighting, having that inner fight within myself, and those disagreements? And you said it perfectly in terms of like a job, for example. You're going to work, coming home complaining, talking, backbiting about colleagues and all sorts of things. And the children, you think that the children are not watching or even picking up on how you're feeling, then we're misguided. So I was saying to this person I was talking to, I said, well, first you've got to find the peace within yourself, before you start going out there with your placards asking for peace.
Right.
Listen, it's not going to happen. You have to be that role model, that shining light before, and that will ripple out to others, you know.
Absolutely.
um, People are quick. We live in a society, the microwave society, it's we say this, we affirm this, and by, within seconds it should have happened. And if it hasn't happened, then there's something wrong with you.
Mhm.
And it's like we've got to really go back to
Mhm.
basics,
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
a lot of the things that we're being told, you can have this, you can be this, you can do this, is all laid out in a way that's fast, transactional. It comes at a cost, consequentially,
Mhm.
that people don't see at the get-go, rather than really tuning in within themselves and asking poignant questions about, who am I? Why
Mhm.
am I here? How can I contribute to society? And not society in a big scale, but society is like the next person, the person next to you, the person in the street. I mean, you walk down the street, nobody wants to even look in your eyes. No one wants to
Mhm.
acknowledge the other person on the street. And, so how can we then, I mean, even like you talk about audacity, how dare we then say, well, there needs to be peace in the world? But yeah, you can't say hello to the person across the road or even the person who passes you in the street.
Mhm. You want peace in the world, but there's no peace within. Like,
Mm,
I used to remember, especially during the conversation during the what we'll call, well, when George Floyd was murdered in that whole thing, and there were white people who were willing to confront white supremacy and really understand. In spaces that I've been as a participant as well as leading groups, one of the things I used to hear is white people saying, I just feel so guilty. I just feel so guilty in the shame. And my thing is, that's fine, but don't stop there. Don't
mm,
stop with just feeling good. You think, okay, because I feel guilty, then I don't know what to do. When you to go with what your friend or anybody like them is when you're feeling that guilt about something that you think you don't know what to do anything about, or you feel like you can't change anything, stay with that guilt. Stay with that guilt and listen to the wisdom of that guilt. What is
mm,
that guilt telling you? Why do you feel guilty?
mm,
When was the last time you remember feeling guilty about something like this? When was the first time you remember feeling guilty about things like this? What is this guilt telling you? Why is it that what's going on in the world out there is causing me to feel guilty?
mm,
Am I feeling like I contributed to what's happening? Am I feeling like I'm not doing enough?
mm,
And because we also live, particularly we live in this world of lack, it's easy to go, yeah, I feel like I'm not doing enough. Okay, that's what's coming up. I feel like I'm not doing enough. If you were doing enough, what would that look like?
mm, mm,
To stay with that, to stay with, if I was doing enough, what would that look like? Well, I volunteer with a youth group. Yeah, but I don't know anything about young people. What can I don't even have any children. How can I talk to them? Whoa, stop. Just stay with the end. If I was doing enough, I would volunteer with young people. Okay, write that down. Where would you start? I don't know. If you do know, where would you go? Maybe go to schools and talk to the teachers. Like the pain and the struggles that we feel, they're not to be wasted. We
mm,
waste them. We
mm,
waste trauma. We
mm,
waste grief. My father passed 2 months ago, and I'm learning more about grief in a new way. I'm tapping into the wisdom of grief. It's not something to just go, oh, I feel sad. Yes, I feel sad. I feel pain. I was sending my sister a message today just talking about that, and I feel myself getting emotional already. And I was getting teary-eyed. It's just like, wow, I can't believe Dad is not here. But I'm not afraid of my tears. and I can recognize. So when I talk about it and I feel like I get emotions, like, oh, there's something there. There's a wisdom there. And I also, in sitting and being with the grief of my father not being here, missing him and really wanting him to be back, and I see his picture, it's like, it's brought me to a place where I realize grief is love turned inside out. It's the same thing. So when people say time will heal it, maybe, but as long as you love, you're going to grieve. They go hand in hand. Sometimes it's a dream that never happened. Sometimes it's a relationship that we believed was going to work out. This is it, finally. Sometimes it's a pet that dies. Sometimes it's a job application or interview that you went through, that I went through, that I just knew I got the job and they said you didn't get it. Oh my goodness. When we feel that the heat, the pain, the anxiety, we've got to cultivate the consciousness to be able to sit long enough. That's how transformation happens. If we don't sit with the heat long enough, you can't bend the metal. The heat softens us. The emotional heat, the heat of rage, the heat of anger, the heat of hurt. There's too many people walking around feeling guilty. Okay, great, but what? Let's sit with the guilt and have a conversation with it. It's deep work, and we can do hard things. And it's sometimes, because this is the way that I do, I talk about it like I'm telling people to get on the phone or get on the app and order something on Uber Eats, and then wait. I don't know. I don't do it because I don't like people messing with my food. I digress. I like my food hot and I like to enjoy it. I don't want to be disappointed when I eat. So I've done it once and I said, never again. It was DoorDash in America. Never again. But anyway, I just thought I was going to do something different. But we are here to transform. We are here to make the invisible visible. And we're always doing it. So the spirit of anger, of rage, of hate, of violence, we're making it visible when we don't honor ourselves, when we don't cultivate love as a force. We're always making the invisible visible, but are we willing to make the invisibleness, if you will, of peace, of love, of togetherness, of eye contact, of belonging? Are we willing to make that visible? And to do that, we and the process makes it just, we become undone. And it's a scary place. It's death. Are we willing to die before we die? Are we willing to play around with the idea you can't have in the world what you're not willing to become? So if I want peace in the world, am I willing to be that? Is it easy to say, oh, that's just this, Israel, this, America, that, whatever? It's true. And what is also true is we won't have peace in the world if people are not peaceful. Well, actually, people are not peaceful, but we're already peaceful. But when we break open, we allow the peace out. But too many of us are I can't, I don't want people to think I'm weak. I don't want people taking my kindness for weakness. So we cover. And when I talk about being vulnerable, I'm not talking about vulnerable where you leave yourself to harm. I'm talking about a spiritual vulnerability where you remember that, ooh, I feel exposed, but there's something holding me here. Or you may not even know something's holding you, but you're in this place where it's safe and you feel brave enough to tell your story. That's how transformation happens. My session with the online event is called Restory to Restore. We must tell a new story if we want to be restored, if we want to be renewed, if we want to live in a way that our hearts are telling us. There's something in us that tells us all the time, there's more, there's more. And not more from a place of lack. Like that's something to say, oh, you're more than this. We are more than this. We may never see a world where there's peace the way we think it should be, but we can still lay the foundation and the bricks and keep building and keep building and keep building. We're here to reveal the light, simply put.
Exactly.
We're here to reveal love. And I'm not just talking about love as an emotion. I'm talking about as a force. When we love when it's hard to love. And that takes commitment. And I can also say that, that's not easy for some people because of the way their life is set up.
Mm.
But whatever we can do is enough. With the right intention, the intention to be that space, that place for love, even though someone might say, I don't have time to meditate. I'm hearing about meditation and I want to, but I got kids. I got to wake one up at 6 o'clock in the morning, another one. Then I got to take them to nursery. And then I got to try and get to work. And then I got to come back. I got to call during lunchtime to come to the house because, okay. But sometimes 30 seconds of stillness is good enough. Don't
Exactly.
have to be 5. Don't have 20 minutes. No, 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 no. Just a moment to remember you're part of something greater is good enough.
Mm.
Yeah.
I mean, I always say to my clients, even if it's just 1 minute you've got just to breathe, just
1
to be still
minute.
and breathe. You don't have to be like what you're saying. You don't have to carve out the 20 minutes if you haven't got the 20 minutes. You don't have to sit there for an hour and meditate. And even I know some people who do that, who meditate for hours and hours, and their lives are chaotic. They've got no peace in them. So you kind of think, so what exactly do you do in your meditation? So, but going back to the grief, firstly, my condolences to you. I understand totally the pain of the grief that you're feeling. And prior to my dad passing, he passed in 2016. I could sympathize with people through loss, but when it actually happened to me, it was like, whoa, now I understand. Now I understand. And like you're saying, it's like for me, it was like a pain I had never felt before. And you still carry it with you, but you learn to live with it. Let me put it that way. You learn to live with it. Because there are moments where, I go through phases where I'm just like, I miss my dad most days. Let me put it that way. Um, and 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 like what you're saying, even something like grief in certain cultures is not spoken about. As soon as the person has gone on, that's it. You get on with life, work through it, do what you need to do about it. You don't, you just do not stay still to even look
Move
sad.
on. It's like, what are you doing? Don't even look sad.
Exactly. And it's sad because that's when, as we know, when certain emotions are suppressed, they can be expressed through disease, and through transforming cultures. We need to be learning to talk about death. Death, it's going to happen to all of us anyway. It's like saying that, oh, let's not talk about going to the toilet. All of us do it. We're humans. If you're not going to the toilet, then there's something wrong with
Right.
So death, let's bring that to the forefront and start having conversations about it, because it's going to happen to all of us at the end of the day.
Yes.
I mean, I remember I watched a friend of mine. She was in her 30s, early 30s, who passed away from cancer. And I say a privilege of witnessing that. It's a cruel, a horrible disease, a very, very horrible disease. But the privilege that she allowed me to come and visit her and see her at her, gosh, I wouldn't even say at her worst. It was her experience, and the fact that she allowed me that like I said, a privilege to be there at her side and say, and speak with her and encourage her, and she encouraging me in her position, you know, and asking me, how are you? And,
Yes.
and I was like, gosh, I mean, there are many cultures who would just close that behind closed doors. No, that's it. No one's coming to see the person. It's private. That's it. But what
Hmm.
if we brought these things out to the forefront as part of everyday life,
Yes.
of things that do happen, instead of everything being kept behind closed doors, and then,
Hmm.
it's the case of, okay, we just get on with life, ignore what's happening, you know. Um, so these are part of certain things that are seen as taboo that need to to be brought to the forefront in conversations.
Absolutely.
And thanks for posting all of
Absolutely.
this, Ada. Yes, do join the MNPC retreat, guys. On there, go to Eventbrite. You can search for
I
MNPC
know, right?
Empowerment,
You
and then
can say slowly,
tongue slip up.
MNPC online, because you try to say it fast. MNN, that what
I'll try to do some rapping.
right.
Search for it on Eventbrite. All the information will come up
Mhm.
there. Ade's doing a session. I'm doing a session. My session is going to be on pause and breathe. And pause and breathe is to help you come into that place of calm, position yourself in that place of calm, so that you can then make viable decisions about your life. It's not just being in that place of calm and peace and balance for the sake of it, but when you're in survival mode, which is what society honors, when you're in the rush, when you're in the gotta have, gotta get, grab, grab, grab mode of living, you're not going to be able to transform your culture, your community effectively. You're going to be living according to someone else's ethos of how you should live. But when
Mhm.
you're in that mode of stillness and calm and peace, that's when you can tap into what you mentioned, Ade, the self, you know, with the capital S, and really connect with yourself and see what's going on inside of you. Rather than pointing fingers and saying, well, that person needs to change, that our government needs to change. Hold on a minute. What about you?
Have you changed this morning? Have you changed today? When was the last time you changed, like really changed? I changed my outfit. That doesn't count.
No, exactly.
Yeah,
And it
yeah.
goes back to like what I mentioned earlier, even just saying hello to someone on the street, or smiling, if you can't say hello, smiling or looking that person directly in the eye. you know it's these are the little things that will help to transform our communities and create that culture of calm. It's the little things, like what you mentioned, Ade, just 30 seconds of being still, you know 30 seconds, 1 minute of just taking in some nice deep breaths, just pausing, rather than going on the tube or the train and plugging in your earphones straight away, or whatever it is that you do to try and snap out the world, keep the
Yeah,
world out.
yes.
How about you go on and go on the train, and you just be mindful of the people around you. You look at them, you look around them, and feel into them, because most people, they're hurting, they're in pain. But to
Mhm.
see someone as an example of love, as you mentioned, Ade, smiling, looking peaceful, and they may not be able to put their finger on it, but they're like, that person is carrying themselves differently to everyone else on this train, on
Absolutely.
this tube.
Yeah,
What is it about them?
absolutely.
I need to know. I need to tap into
Absolutely.
that.
Absolutely.
But But
Absolutely.
most people, you go on the commute now, everyone's stressed, their head is down, or they've got their earplugs in, they're shutting out the world, don't want to know, or their face is in a computer screen or something. And we're not going to change. We are not going to change our culture. As people of color, we're not going to change our culture that way. So, as you mentioned, Ade, we need to look at what's going on with ourselves. We need to then set the intention of, well, what does peace look like from me? What does peace look like? What does calm look like from me? Not expecting someone else, because we live in we live in a society where, again, we're expecting other people to spoon feed us all the time, to give to us, but and we can't give to ourselves.
Right.
That,
Right.
again, it comes back into that empowerment.
Mm-hmm.
How can we empower ourselves to be able to be that true example of the peace, of the change, of the culture, of the calm, of the transformation? And I loved what you said, Ade, about transformation. Transformation, because sometimes people can pretty up transformation, and it's like, oh yeah, it's going to be all lovely, and flowers, and we're going to look beautiful. But
Mm.
what does a caterpillar go through to transform into a butterfly?
It turns
you
to
know
goo. It dies
exactly,
to itself. It
exactly.
dies
Oh,
completely gooey, gooey, gooey. It doesn't
oh,
even have any shape. It's just gooey.
yeah,
And my
it's
my friend and mentor, Rep D, would say, "Goo is good." You know, the transformation. I want to share an experience. I try and make it smaller. I had an experience about 2 weeks ago, and when it came up, it was really hard. I struggled, and I went to what was familiar. I made it be about something that's wrong with me. I was like, why am I still dealing with this? And I had a conversation with someone, and basically she confirmed the space that I was in, and I felt like she had some bias that she brought to the space, and the things that she said about me. I was like, no, that's not true. And like, she don't know me. Days after, I was in that thing. I couldn't shake it. It just kept getting bigger. It just kept getting bigger. This was like on a Wednesday. By Saturday, it was like all I can hear was I couldn't. It was just this thing, or something is wrong. I got to fix this. I need to find a therapist. Why am I still dealing with this? Oh my God, I've been dealing with this for a long time. It was just constant. Even when I wasn't trying to think, my thoughts were thinking. It wasn't until actually, it was later that Saturday. I'm part of a group, and I shared what I've been going through. I was ashamed about what I was dealing with. I was surprised that I was still dealing with that. I was embarrassed that I was dealing with that. But in the group, I said, you know what, flip it. I'm going to tell them what I'm dealing with. Because this group, that's what we do. We come together every first and third Saturday, and we share authentically. We share what we're dealing with. And having big people conversation, having the uncomfortable conversation, telling our stories the way we know it to be. And I
mm,
shared the story, what I was dealing with. And when three of them, there was maybe four, gave a feedback about my check-in about where I was and what I was dealing with. And as I listened to each one of them, it's like they were holding a mirror for me to see me that I couldn't see when I was going through that transformation, because it was
mm,
painful. It was raw. It reminded me of childhood stuff. It reminded me of things that I dealt with my siblings. And as they individually basically held the mirror up to how they see me, what they know me to be, and it's not just, they weren't trying to gas my head up, they were just speaking the truth. And I know it was true because when I heard it, it was right. I
mm,
understood it, I felt it. And in that moment, I realized, wait a minute, that thing that was happening, that was causing this deep pain that I was struggling to get away from, was actually coming up to be released. But
mm,
I
mm,
held on to it and identified with it and judged myself and criticized myself. I also saw, oh, I was dying. I was dying, but I was resisting the death. And by
mm,
Saturday, that thing was like, oh, you're going to die. And I was like, I don't want to die. You're going to die. I don't want to die. I just want to be free. It's like, if you die, you'll be free. No, I can't deal with it. But when they mirrored me back to myself, I said, oh, I was dying. My community reminded me. They didn't use those words, but the words that they used, oh, I was dying. And in that moment, I surrendered. And the energy that I was using to resist the painful, transformative experience turned back and it was refueling me. I felt alive. I felt big and bold because now I wasn't doing I released that. There was peace. And there was this cycle of, yes, I'm dying, breathe. And there was this regeneration that was taking place. By Saturday, I was like, oh my God, we must learn to die before we die.
Mm-hmm.
And the death is a daily thing, just as simple as going to sleep.
Mm.
That's transformation. Death is a transformation. Growth is transformative. It's going to be uncomfortable. So is change. If we spend more time, not because I often, this thing that we call, whatever you want to call it, mindfulness, spirituality, self-awareness, whatever. Sometimes it can sound so good, and people want to use flowery words, but it's important to.
Someone's asked, how can I get some of that Ade?
It's like, oh yes, I just want to ascend and leave my body when I die. Yeah, I just bring light because I'm a light being. Yes, yes, yes. But in order to be a light being, you have to embrace the shadow being that you are, the dark being that you are. If you can't embrace the darkness, there's no need. Being the light means nothing. Good means nothing if there isn't bad.
Mm.
They serve one another. So it's important to remember that, when we talk about it, does everybody goes through their own journey, and it doesn't have, well, sometimes it is really painful, but sometimes it's not. Like, I went to an event today.
There's a question for you, Ade.
Sure.
Can you see the question that's come up by
Yeah.
Lauren?
Yeah, I can kind of see it. Let me see.
Yeah.
What process methodology did he use to produce his massive? Hey, the African is coming out in me. Hey, my friend, let me tell you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Method, process. I think what I will say, and this feels real true right now, there was a deep desire to be more. I felt like I was created for more, that I'm here to do more.
Mm-hmm.
And the transformative experience happened while I was in America. One, so I was here working in UK, driving London, working with London Transport, driving the double-decker buses, which I love. I love driving. I love the idea of driving those not even the idea, practically literally driving the buses. It's like this big old thing that I'm driving, and some of them were old, some of them were brand new. Oh, I loved it. But I remember one day I was in my bathroom, and it wasn't a prayer. Sometimes I call it a prayer. I was just there. It wasn't like, okay, dear God. No, it was just talking to God like a friend, like a buddy. But I wasn't even there wasn't a lot of intellectual stuff. It was just like, God, I love driving the buses. I love it. But I feel like there's more that I'm meant to do. I feel like there's something more in me. And I remember saying, I want to do something new. I'm willing to start over. Now, when I look back, I'm like, what the heck was I smoking? I'm glad I said it, but it was like willing to start over. When I moved to America in 1993, that's actually what happened. But I wasn't saying, oh, the process while I was there, I didn't think, okay, I'm starting over. Once we make the declaration, it doesn't matter if you're talking to God, to your angels, to nature, to life, to your higher self, your inner child, it doesn't matter. But something that comes from the heart, like, I'm willing to be different. I want to know peace. I don't want to be afraid of feeling guilty anymore. There's some stuff that I've been hiding from. I want to be able to confront it. Just that intention to want to be more, to want to heal, to want to be a beneficial presence, to want to add value to the world. That's the process, really. And in that declaration, that request to the universe, things started to happen. I end up in a spiritual center in Atlanta, Georgia, and I was hearing things that thoughts that I've had before that I thought is kind of weird because most people weren't talking about that. I'm like, wow. I called it positive thinking back then, but here I was at this metaphysical church. It's like, wow, God loves everybody. God loves everybody. It's like, well, I used to believe that, but nobody really affirmed that with me. So to kind of speed it up, the to bring it to a practical level, along the journey, I've learned journaling. That helps
Mm.
me a lot because I have a lot of thoughts.
Yeah.
I think I'm getting better to stay on point because sometimes I may have done it without knowing, but when you're talking to me, I communicate like a tree. I start at the roots and go one branch, and then there's another branch. But for the most part, I'll bring it together. I will always tie it together, even if I forget why I was talking about this branch. But journaling, getting still, spending time in nature, it's been quite
Mm.
helpful. And lately, I'm doing this 30-day conversation with love. I write, dear love, and I ask a question. But the last few days, it's been kind of challenging. There's some things that recurring, there's some things that I'm dealing with that I'm specifically asking, what do I need to do? It doesn't matter if you're talking to love, to God, to whatever. It's recognizing that we're so much more and being consistent with doing the practices, being consistent because I've been doing the work, because I've interviewed so many people, probably thousands of people. Like Oprah says, she never had to go to therapy because she learned from the people that she interviewed. I didn't know it then, but I've reflected back recently, like, talking to people, learning different things, using what they were sharing helped me. So when I was going through my transformative experience 2 weeks ago, I remember to always come back to my breath. And there were times when I know I was judging myself, thinking I wasn't enough. There was still that wise part of me saying, that's not the only picture. That's not the bigger picture. And I also know, even in my embarrassment and my fear and my anger, I was able to tell the truth about my pain with my community.
Mm.
So
Mm.
I don't know if that answered your question, Lauren. Lauren Soy? Is that Soy? I can't see very well.
Well, she
Um,
says this is
He said,
also
how can I get some of
interesting.
that? Some of what?
Thank
She said that a long time ago.
you. Oh,
But really, to make it simple, if you want to transform, if you want to love, if you want to know yourself as a divine being, you just got to have a deep desire to want to know
exactly.
and know that it's going to get bumpy sometimes. You got to be willing to surrender,
Mm.
and love is going to break your heart open. Don't be afraid of a broken heart. Feel the pain. Be with it. Nurture the pain. And then let the pain speak to you. Because once your heart breaks open, love comes rushing out.
It's true. I remember when in my 20s and discovering personal development, and it was all along I wanted to know who I was. That was the story in my head, was that I want to know who I am.
Mm,
And like you say, knowing, I knew on the inside of me, because back then I was working in, oh gosh, where was I working in? It was an office job anyway. But
mhm.
it wasn't what I wanted to do. Um, but I knew, like what you're saying, I knew I was meant for something more. So that set me on the journey of discovering who I was and what I was here for, and then, went into this whole personal development and then coaching, etc., etc. But yes, it's having that, making that decision, and then taking the next step to saying, yes, I'm in for doing this, you know, regardless of what it looks like, because
Yep.
it is going to look messy, you know.
Yep.
So there's no sort of, what they're glitterizing on social media, that, you can, you
Once
can
you know
even,
who you are, you walk around life aligned, you attract nothing
exactly.
but peace to you.
Oh,
Stop it.
oh
Just
my
shut up.
goodness. And everything will manifest and attract into you like in seconds, you know. And I saw the, oh gosh, what was it? It was a title of a blog or something, a video, and it said something along the lines of um, um, either why you can't manifest quickly, or I can manifest quickly, or something. And I just laughed because I thought, yeah, I know the, what's behind that now. Whereas
Mhm.
before, years ago, I would have rushed to watch the blog, and found out, oh, how, what, but now I'm just like, seen that, done that, doesn't exist. It's a load of tosh. So it's it's being it's being able to say, yes, I know there's something more in me. I want to discover more about me. And it's real, Ade, it's realizing that it's a lifetime. It's a lifetime until the day that we're done with this earth, living here as a human, and we transition on. It's a lifetime. That's, for me, that's how I see it. From when I had the second burnout in 2018, and I realized that I couldn't work and I couldn't live at the pace that I had been doing before. And I realized that, oh, now I get to live and work at a different pace. And then I thought, hold on a minute, I'm transitioning into a different space now. And rather than working, because I had been working with coaches and everything was about setting goals and going for it and achieving your goal in record time and being the star of the month type of thing, and the accolades and things like that, which is, if it's for people, if it works for people, that's great. But I
Absolutely.
realized my body and who I am and my personality just didn't align with that. And I realized that that contributed towards my burnout, because I was in aligned to that way of working and living, that I realized that how I want to and desire to live is a lifetime. It's a lifetime, long-term aspect. It's not a here today, tomorrow I'm like this. No, for me, it's developing day by day, step by step, uncovering, experiencing, really pausing and analyzing, saying, oh, that's what's showing up for me today. Oh, that's nice. Oh, yeah, let me just camp here, you know, like a nomad, you know.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
Someone calls it like, walking through life like a barefooted priest, where you're just taking these light steps through life instead of rushing, just taking these light, paceful, slow steps through life. Because if we don't, we can look back and think, and I used to look back on years and I used to think, gosh, the year's gone quick. What did I do? And I couldn't even tell you. I couldn't. All I knew, it was goals, 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 goals. And then I'm glad that my body just said, nope, we can't do this anymore. And I had to learn that
Shut it
twice.
down. Shut. Yeah.
you
You just said your buddy was like, oh, she just not
know?
gonna listen. All right, folks, we're gonna have to take. We have to do it again. Yep, she won't listen, but I think she's gonna get it this time. Come on, let's go. you
And
know.
a short stay in the hospital was enough. Trust me. It was like, yeah,
Mm,
I'm not coming back here again.
yes, yes.
So
I, I,
it's
I think
again,
I want. I mean, I know I looked at the time and I'm like, woo, we have been having a good
I've
time.
been having one time. Yes.
I, I want to also say, and then we talk about the retreat as well again. Right where you are is enough.
Mm,
Right where, right where I am is enough. I need to say that to myself over and over and over and over. Right now is enough. Now is enough. This
mm,
moment is enough. But look at what shh. Now is enough. But I don't have money to buy. Shh. Now, in this moment, you're not walking to the grocery
present,
store to buy things.
being
This moment
present.
is enough.
Mm,
But okay, this moment is enough. But when I go, no, but we're not even talking about then. We're talking about now.
mm.
And then just that moment, as we talked about earlier, to just take a moment, take a deep breath, listen to your body, watch your heart and lungs and everything rise and come back down. And if you just tune into your body, you will recognize that you're not even breathing you. So when you say take a breath, you're really taking something that's already given to you. And the other thing I tell people is like, okay, take a breath, and we go, now let the breath take you. Just surrender to the breath and remind yourself that now is enough. There is a divine intelligence that is orchestrating everything about you. You said it earlier, we must be willing to slow down. When life forced us to slow down in 2020, we saw the sky differently because we slowed down.
Yeah.
We saw animals on the street, and some of us say, well, animals think, yes, yeah, humans are the virus, and when we got locked up, the animals can come out. Well, maybe because some of us were forced to be still, and some of us was like, oh, I'm so grateful for this moment. We started to see things that we would never imagine seeing, and animals felt safe to come out. And we realized that we don't own this earth, that we're sharing it.
And we could hear
We could
things. We could hear the birds singing. We could hear the rustling of the trees, you know. We could smell the air, you know, because there wasn't that much pollution around. And and again, this goes back to being mindful of just taking in your surroundings, no matter what your surroundings look like, but having that appreciation, because there are many people who are not able to experience what you're experiencing today. So
absolutely.
yeah, so
We've shared
we better
a
wrap
lot of
this up, don't
tools. We shared a lot of tools and a lot of processes and just in conversation and easily missed. So I tell you, if you want to catch it again, would listen again. I mean, because it's conversational for us because it's become a daily practice. I don't do a lot of processes anymore. I listen to Abraham Hicks, which brings me back to my center, but I don't do a lot of different things. The tools I use now is the tools that I already have. It's like sometimes as simple as taking a deep breath. And for anybody who's starting the journey or who's on the journey, wherever you are, you can take a moment to sit still and ask yourself, where did water come from? What do you mean, where did water come from? From the faucet, from the tap. Yeah. But before you got to the tap, where did it come from? Well, from the whatever. The people who are doing whatever they do. But where did water originate from? See what you come up with. And I say to you, whatever you come up with, I want you to know you are from the same place water is from. And if we can sit with that long enough, sometimes we just want to know things. Just say, I'm from the same place water originated from. Where's that? From God? But God, sometimes that word gets in the way. But where did water come from? Where did it first originate from? Was there a first? That's where you're from? What does that mean? Now we're allowing the mind to do something that it doesn't usually do, to think of something that even seems impossible or different. We get curious. Therein lies the transformation. And that's what we're doing. We're continuing the conversation with the MNPC Online Empowerment Retreat, November 18th to the 26th. And so there's a morning session, there's an evening session. And, book your ticket, go to mnpc.co.uk. mnpc.co.uk. Register there. You can go to Eventbrite. There's a long link. So if you go to Eventbrite, just type in MNPC online event retreat or something like that. If you put MNPC, it'll bring up and you see it. Join us and be part of the shift, be part of the change. And there's something to be said about healing together in community. You say what?
Yeah. We've got some great presenters as well,
Yes.
who will be sharing their take on transforming communities and creating cultural
Mhm.
calm, and invite others, people. This is open for people of color. We know, as people of color ourselves, the impact of what's happening in the global village, the impact that
Absolutely.
it has on us, and you'll gain a lot of insights, a lot of tools, and you don't have to use every single one. Just listen, just come, listen, be part of the experience, and then whatever you take away is for you. Whatever you take away is for you, and you can
Mhm.
utilize that. And like what Ade say, it's about the practice. Even if you use one piece of information, but you practice that for the rest of your life, and that brings about your transformation, which will then bring about the transformation in your community and create the cultural calm that way, then that's all you need.
That's it.
Oftentimes we think we need this, we need that. Oh, I've got to go here, I've got to go there. Da, da. For me, I always say to my clients, less is more. Less
Mhm.
is more. I prefer to just give my client one thing and go deep with that one thing.
Mhm. Mhm. That's all we need. One
Mm,
thing. But
mm,
we think we need this. We need to meditate. We need to walk on fire. You can do that too. We
mm.
need to do this. We need to one thing.
Ice
You do
baths.
one thing long enough. You
You
say
like
what?
ice baths. Ice baths.
Hey, one
Not me.
thing. One thing. Just sit every day. 30 seconds. 10
Mm,
seconds.
mm,
Set the timer. 10 seconds. Your dedication itself, because you're not trying to achieve or get something that you don't already have. You're making room for what's already you, what's already in you.
mm,
Tapping into divine intelligence that knows how to heal your body without permission. The body
mm.
heals itself when we move
Yeah.
out the way.
Mm.
Yeah.
So, Ade, what day is your session on?
I know it's the 24th of November because I looked it up before this, but I don't remember. I think it's a Friday. I think it's a Friday. I had to go look up a lot. I had to go look it up to remember what I call the title. I'm not even gonna lie. I ain't gonna lie. I was like, what's the title? Something to do with story. And I said, oh yeah, read story to restore. It's the truth. I'm doing stuff and like, I don't know. We did that. I wrote that like early part of this
What
year. I don't remember
ages? I know it's been, yeah,
yeah.
since we've been organising this.
Mhm,
So go to the relevant places that we mentioned. Check out the brochure because the brochure is beautiful. Check it out.
mhm,
See all the other presenters who will be presenting. I will be on Monday, the 20 something, and I'm going to be doing a morning 7:15 a.m. pause and breathe
mhm,
session to get you set up for a day of calm. Um, because I know a lot of you set up your days and it's just stress. It's just go, you know. But how about if you tried something different and set up your day for calm on a Monday morning? How that would just go into your week is just going to be phenomenal. So check out the information. Ade, it's been lovely speaking with you. I don't even know what the time is because normally once you're done in an hour, Instagram is telling you to get off.
mhm.
So
Right, right. Oh, I remember that. Thank God that's changed. Thank God that it changed. I remember that. And then you have to earn your way to going over an hour.
yeah,
Depends on how many lives you did. And and
exactly.
and when I earned my way, I was like, "Ooh, I made it! I made it!" Ooh, I got stroked by IG. Eventbrite. Yeah, life is good. Life
So
is
yeah,
good. It's
so
getting better.
check it out, and we hope to see you there on
Hmm.
the MNPC retreat
Maybe
in
we'll do this
November.
again. What you think? Maybe we
Yes,
can do it again. We got
definitely.
time. I like
Yes,
talking with you. I enjoy this. We
I,
never really had this conversation before. We just said yes, we'll do it, and here we are. Yeah, man.
yes.
I like people can go in the deep end. I like to go in the deep end. Right.
Me too.
Yeah,
I'm a deep person. I'm not a shallow,
yeah.
nah, I ain't
Shallow
got time
people
for that.
exhaust me. When people are shallow, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so tired, I'm so bored. Oh, come on, really? Come on. We can go deeper. Don't hyperventilate. I got you. Don't hyperventilate. We're going to be all right. We're going to be all right. oh, life. Thank you, my dear sister. Thank you,
Thank
everyone
you
who
for
joined us.
today.
Yes.
Have a
And
wonderful
those of you
evening.
joining us. Yes,
And
indeed.
yes,
I'm going to go eat
let's
now.
cheers again soon. Okay. I'm going to drink some water.
I beat you to it.
I've got some water here, but I'm going to have some warmer water.
Thank
And
you.
thank
Thank
you
you.
for those who
Thank you.
joined us on the live. Thank you for those of you
Mhm.
who watch the replay. Please, again, do share with others who are people of color or, our Caucasian brothers and sisters as
Yeah.
well. They're welcome to come. Join us on the retreat
Oh,
too. It's open for
really?
everybody.
I thought it was just for people of color. Are we just doing
Yes,
the thing that we
people of
do?
color, but you
That
know
we,
what? Hey,
that's what we do. Yes, everybody just show up.
yeah. And learn. And learn.
Yes.
Lauren says, thank you both. You're both so lovely.
Oh,
Oh,
you're
thank
welcome,
you.
Lorena. Nice to see you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for joining us. We got, I think we're oh my yoga diva earlier. Now we have one yoga wisdom. Can you share yoga wisdom? Oh, we got to go. All is well. We're all united. That's yoga wisdom. All right. Let's end this because I'll keep going.
Okay. All right. Have a good night. See you
You too.
later.
Love you. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.